Today, I have a friend of mine, Kevin Budsey. We know each other through Strategic Coach. That's something you've heard me talk about many times with a bunch of other people. So, having that said, Kevin has a small business. He's a small business person. He's worked in small companies and unfortunately, well, I'm speaking for me, unfortunately, large corporations. Um, Over 36 years. He's always known his place was to be an owner of a business and put to work his entrepreneurial drive and spirit. He's had his realtor's license for the past 15 years and has helped family and friends with selling and buying real estate as a part-time gig while he was selling to corporate customers in the corporate world. Uh, Kevin, when he was 53, the company he worked for 11 years, decided to trim their sales force and let him go and other senior sales staff. Within a couple of months, COVID began to rage. While Kevin was contemplating his next move, and the phone started ringing. It seemed only natural to help distributors having a hard time accessing pandemic supplies source them. So his entrepreneurial spirit kicked into gear and a business was born, which actually spun into more businesses. Kevin, thank you for sharing. Not sharing, you haven't shared yet. Thank you for joining us.
No problem, Andre. Thanks for having me.
Um, so you worked 36 years as a company man. And
Yeah,
I'm guaranteeing
companies.
various companies, but I guarantee you put your heart and soul in every one of them.
Absolutely.
That's the way we're wired. And then can you explain to me? So you were laid off or dismissed, however you want to call it, shortly before COVID. Is this how I'm understanding it?
Yep. In fact, it was a January when COVID was just kind of becoming known
Right.
To most of the world anyway. I mean, we had heard of it because we're in the business of, I guess you could say PPE and janitorial sanitation type supplies. So
Personal protective equipment, the PPE.
right.
Okay.
Sorry, personal. Yeah. So safety. And yeah, it was the January and the company decided they wanted to make some changes, and anybody that was over a certain age and I guess had some gray hairs or balding and made
And
a
more
certain amount of money
expensive.
decided to
And more
they
expensive.
decided to chuck. So
Yeah. So
yeah, I
then
was out of
COVID
work.
hit. Then COVID
and
hit.
and COVID, boom, blast
But
off.
what happened then?
Well, it's funny, as my wife kept saying, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I think this is my time to start something." And I had been in discussions actually of buying an industrial distributor, just loose discussions, nothing real serious. COVID hit, and I thought, well, it's probably not a good idea to buy it at that point in time. And the phone started ringing, and it was people that knew me from the past saying, "Hey, you know people. Can you get us hand sanitizer? Can you get us gloves? Can you get us masks? Can you get us disinfectants?" And I said, "Well, let me see what I can do." I pulled out my Rolodex and started making calls. Started, buying and selling. I guess you could just say flipping stuff, using my garage as the shipping and receiving area, if you will.
Okay. How,
And
how
that's
many of the
kind of where it
listeners are
was.
listening going, yeah, I started at home too. Sounds
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Just get her
And that
done.
was it. Like
Yeah.
they just started calling, and I was busy enough there for a couple months, and then someone called me up that I used to work with and joined me, and he's still with me actually.
Oh, so you got an employee pretty much right out the bat.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. So you started in your so you started in your, sorry, I started in my basement. You started in your garage,
Yeah, and my
um,
kitchen table.
and your kitchen table. So
Yeah.
again, listeners, how many people are saying check, check? Sounds familiar. So what happened after that? You still in your garage and kitchen?
No, it's funny how life works. I was at a friend's place, a customer, and he said, I know a guy who's got some warehouse space. I needed some space. I know a guy. So I spoke to this guy, and he happened to have a 10,000 square foot warehouse space that he wanted to move into, but didn't yet. He said he'd lease me some space on a monthly basis in there. So I started out with about 1,000 square feet in there, and actually we're still in this place and he's out. And so we went from literally my garage in say the April that year into this warehouse in the July with about 1,000 square feet, and just over wasn't even a year, we had the place to ourselves, 10,000 square feet. We use obviously all the space. We've got racks up. We've got the warehouse part. But we also built a store for a second business called Empire Cash and Carry, and it's just a janitorial, sanitation, safety, and food service disposables kind of warehouse store.
And walk-in
So
traffic. So
walk-in traffic,
walk-in
businesses from around Cambridge. We're in Cambridge,
Ontario. Yep.
Cambridge, Ontario. Sorry. So from Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph, people come in, they buy stuff, they leave.
That's a great location actually for the three cities. That's a nice
Yeah.
central location. So
Yeah,
you
we're
found
right
a
off the
need.
highway.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, the big old 401. I know everyone in the world has heard about the 401, so it's not
Yep.
good. Okay, so that's great. So you started in your kitchen and your garage. You moved into a 10,000 square foot warehouse within a year, and then you started a second business because you just saw a need and a fill. And then you actually had people coming after you saying, "Hey, man, we know you're good at this stuff, and we rely on you, and that's valuable." And you
Right.
jumped on that.
Yeah, I jumped on. I guess they thought it was natural to call me, just because, it's relationships that I had built. And not only that, the relationships that I had built, they felt good enough about referring me to other people. And I didn't have to go against any agreements that I had in place at the time, with a former employer. And, we just built a little business, and that little business kind of grew and grew and grew.
Nice.
We don't always have great months, but we don't always, it's up and down, but we're like any other business, but we're having
Well,
fun with it.
well, let's be realistic here. Business is always up and down, no matter how many years you're in business, how many millions and millions of dollars you pull in. There's no such thing as a business that's just always in the good.
No, that's
No.
so true.
Yeah. And I
Right.
think that's
And
where a lot of people fail to think it's once it gets going, it can maintain itself. It's constant work. It's not for everyone.
absolutely. And I mean, I know a lot of people during COVID were hurting, and we did our best to help them. And I wouldn't say we made a killing by any means, but we were profitable out of the gate. Um, we got, put it this way, everything we made really went back into the company. I didn't take a paycheck till year two. Um, Even then, it's not, as you know, sometimes it's not always, uh, doable, but really we were profitable right off the hop.
Right. So you're reinvesting back in the company, which is
Yep.
cool. And you said in the second year you start paying yourself. So I just want to have the listeners, I didn't pay myself for 5 years, which is this is one thing I learned from another mentor of mine. And he says, we should always pay ourselves, maybe the first year, second year, but after that, we should still pay ourselves because we are valuable, and always investing in the company is good, but not too much and not paying yourself can be detrimental. For me, it was I actually devalued my input. Like I pulled enough money out to live, but we were pretty much felt like we were poor all the time because we are just pulling in enough. So that's my insight. Reason I have you here is because one day we were having a Zoom breakout room chat, sharing experiences and thoughts, and then you've been diagnosed ADHD.
Yes.
And if you want to give me that little bit of background and history, when you got diagnosed, maybe if you want to share the why or whatnot, and from then till now, just give us a little background of that process.
So yeah, it's just I guess in a nutshell, back when I turned 50, so let's say 6 years ago. Um, I guess my wife looked at me one day and, what are you brooding about? And is it a midlife crisis? And it's going on and on and on. And I just said, like, I'm in a bit of a dark place. And she thought maybe it was work, or, and, obviously she first thing is, oh, is it me? But it's like, no, God, no, it's nothing to do with family, nothing to do with work. Um, just couldn't explain it. And so then I thought, you know what, I've had enough of feeling sorry for myself. Let's look into this. And the more I just thought it was depression, honestly, and anxiety runs through the family. And I always thought, I don't really get anxious, but this depression was starting to bother me. And the more I read, the more I realized it could be depression as a comorbidity to ADHD,
Mhm.
because the more I assessed my situation, man, like that was me. Um,
Long
so I
term, you
went,
mean like looking far back?
oh, to childhood,
Okay.
to childhood. I mean, it was so obvious to me that it was ADHD. And, I went to the doctor and we had a discussion, and she agreed and put me in touch with a psychiatrist and said, go see the psychiatrist. So I went and saw the psychiatrist, and yeah, she said, yeah, you got a pretty good case of it. And there's some other things there as well. Like I said, the depression, um, the anxiety. And it surprised me when she even said, you know, there's even a bit of a case of a borderline
Oh, borderline
disorder.
personality. Yeah, borderline
Yeah.
personality disorder. Yeah.
And I was pretty shocked by that one, because once you read about it, you're like, holy
Yeah.
smokes. And
Holy crap, man.
yeah, once you listen to some people that have it, you're like,
Yeah.
whoa. But
So,
she did say it's very mild. You're kind
yeah.
of a borderline, if you will.
Well, my
We
psychiatrist, what
need to
he
manage
actually,
it.
the term he used was you have borderline personality traits.
There you go.
So it wasn't that you got borderline, you had some traits that I learned with time was because of my ADHD and the tempest I had, I became rigid and had the traits, but he wouldn't say I had it. And it sounds like those kind of similar to you.
But you know
And
what?
and
Probably.
and note to the listeners, we're not doctors, we're not diagnosing, we're just two people talking with our experiences and limited knowledge. And so we don't, we're not scientifically trained. And
Right.
can't
And
diagnose.
as you'll find out later, my memory is a sieve, so I don't always remember and take in everything. So,
What are you
but
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. But yeah, so that's the way that one went. And then she said, okay, let's get the meds started, which we did. And there's Concerta, and
There's a bunch of different types.
there's Concerta for the ADHD, I guess, and a couple others for the mood disorder and the um depression. And
Oh,
it's just
yeah. So those are not ADHD drugs.
no,
They're
no,
different
no.
types of drugs to treat specifically the depression
Right.
and the anxiety. Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
they after we tuned it up, and it's always a tune, and anybody who's got it'll know that. Um, Everything's been better. I mean, like the people closest to me, my wife and family, like they notice fairly quickly, um, especially on the Concerta. They really noticed the difference um, in terms of scatterbrain.
Mhm.
I was a little more focused, obviously. Um, just everything. I mean, my demeanor changed. Uh, it was really, quite the change over a few weeks,
So why do you think your
starting with
demeanor
that.
change? Why would your
Well,
demeanor change?
you know what? Again, that was that dark period, right? So with the depression drugs, once they kicked in, they, they helped with coming out of that. So I think with being able to uh, focus and not being on edge and everything else, plus the chemical imbalance coming into balance is what I would think.
Right.
I think just a lot of things were changing in my brain back to where they should be. Um, and
Do you think it just
listen, I got
slowed
happier.
everything down? Like it just slowed
Oh,
everything down for you to be able to deal with it?
Andre, everything slowed down.
Yeah.
Everything, like, yeah, you know what monkey brain's like. Um, when I heard that description one day, I went, "Oh, that's what I
Yeah.
have, monkey brain." Like I just you like it's tough. Even even drugged, it's hard to stay on topic a lot of days,
Yeah.
right? Or hard to focus on any one given thing a lot
It's
of
part of the
days.
treatments, not the whole treatment.
Exactly. So, you're looking at it, and I don't know if I'm making complete and total sense to everybody, but certainly those that have gone through it or are going through it will understand what I'm saying, right? Like um it's the scatterbrain, the haziness, and then all of a sudden things become clearer, things slow down, even though you're on a stimulant. Um, and I do notice the days that I miss it for whatever reason. By 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm done for. I get edgy, I get hazy, I get, just finished. My brain depletes so quickly
Well, that's the
if
crash.
I
That's
don't.
the afternoon crash.
Yeah. And
They
so
call it. Yeah.
it's one of those things, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you for
So
sharing for that. There's a lot of insights there. I think a lot of listeners would share and understand.
yeah, it's self diagnosis, I guess you could say, but more self realization, I guess, is really what I should say. And
Well,
then going to get the proper diagnosis. And you know
self,
what,
yeah,
I tell you, if anybody's even remotely thinking that this might be an issue, I say go get it looked at,
yeah.
because
Well,
there's just it's so easy to fix
there's that too. But at the
or
same
come to
time,
terms with.
if it's not ADHD, at least you can find out, discover what the issue is, so you can work it. That to me, that's the whole thing. It was what is it? What is going on, so I can work it,
Right. And
manage it.
then you find the resources like
Yeah,
other books, and start figuring it out.
yeah. So, what has been your biggest ADHD challenge as an entrepreneur?
Really, um, memory is it's been my biggest challenge my whole life. Um, on any given day, like my memory is a sieve, right? I keep books to write things in. I use the digital calendars and whatnot to keep me on track. I mean, even the appointment I had to keep with you today, not only was it in a book, it was on the calendar, but I had to set a timer,
Yeah, and nothing
for a
wrong with that.
certain
I
time.
do that. That's
Yeah,
good.
if I didn't have all three,
Yeah,
I just wouldn't have been here,
yeah,
because I'll miss appointments unless of those prompts, right?
yeah,
The other thing is I can just lose track of anything or time, especially, and be unprepared. Um, if I'm doing other things or if I'm hyper focused, which we'll talk about, I'm sure,
yeah.
but um, you know, but I can get past all those alarms sometimes and even forget. And
Mhm.
it's frustrating for me, but everybody around me, especially my wife. And if you're forgetful or anybody else out there, they'll know how their spouse feels about it, because they're like, how do you forget this so quickly? But I
Right.
could be downstairs, run upstairs. I forgot what I was there for.
Yep. And that's the working memories they refer it to. And that's always been a challenge for me. I didn't realize that was a challenge. And another thing is like you just said something, everyone doesn't understand why you would forget that and still get frustrated, even though you have ADHD. If you got the explanation, then I really hope that people out there are reducing, like the expectation would be kind of understood and just say, okay, I understand now why. So what else can we do to help you to not forget? Or like my youngest, what I realized, we can only give her one task at a time. If we tell her to do two or three, she'll go upstairs. We're lucky to get her to do the first one. So the second and third is forever lost. When you're done that one, come back. Right.
Right.
So everyone adapts. And that's what I really want everyone to be able to advocate for themselves so that we can have everyone else adapt to our change and not fit a mold. So
Right. And the one task, I mean, I just, the one thing that drives me crazy is when people say, well, I can multitask. Why can't
yeah,
you?
that's
I
bullshit.
can't.
No.
How's that? Let's leave it at that. And
Mhm.
let me know the second thing to do.
So you talked about hyper focus, and when we were talking earlier, you're saying that's your one of your symptoms that you've transformed into a strength. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So hyper, I didn't understand hyper focus at all until I started reading about this in my 50s. And honestly, I wish I would have understood this, because the hyper focus, I get it. Some people say, "Oh, you're concentrating so hard that you're forgetting everything around you, or whatever." But the hyper focus is something that, because typically it's because I'm interested in something, or I know how something has to get done, so I can pretty much exclude anything and everything from around me, and not pay attention to anything, and get it done and get it done well. But that hyper focus is a superpower because of that. You can go on a task, or you can go on a project, and you know what, get it done extremely well, maybe better than you even think you're capable of. um and I wish I had that knowledge all my life, because I think I would have put more emphasis on using it that way. as opposed to just getting interested in something, spending the next week reading about it, or 2 weeks, whatever that is, all your spare time you're reading about it and living it. You know what I mean?
No, I
You know,
do, because I know for me, because of my hyper focus, I've undervalued my services as a consultant. I can do it in an hour. And what I'm discovered, and I know a lot of listeners, I think for you too, Kevin, is if you can hyper focus for 2, 3 hours, no interruption, you probably did a day or days and a half worth of work that other people would do.
I believe you're correct.
And I know I used to get in trouble all the time because I worked so efficiently and quick, only because I'm in hyper focus. If I'm not in hyper focus, I'm not working efficiently. But they're actually, you're making us look bad because you're getting everything done quicker. But the biggest lesson I got, I think we undervalue ourselves because we can do this stuff quick. And that's okay, but that's where our value is. And we got to charge accordingly if you're in the service industry.
Oh, listen, I agree completely. And then the other problem with hyper focus is the opposite, right? When you're not hyper focused, a lot of times you're scattered and you're getting nothing done.
It's hard to get motivated to do something because you don't care about it.
100%.
Right? Like I know like sometimes it'll take me an hour and a half just to get into something I don't want to do.
Oh,
Then I
I
can get
agree.
into hyper focus. But then someone interrupts me and is like, no, there's another hour and a half I got to get back into.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Leave me alone, everybody. When I'm on a roll, just leave me. But yeah, that is one thing that, if people think that's a problem, it's not.
No, exactly. And then like because of what you're sharing your story today, everyone's hearing that it's not a problem.
Mm-mm.
So, and this is fantastic. So going along those lines, so what advice would you give the listeners then?
So, it's easy to remember, your crummy days and whatnot. Um, and I had a lot of them, but I say enjoy yourself. And I think I mentioned it to you that I mean, I struggle sometimes with enjoying myself, um, in life even. And it's not because, I'm miserable. I'm anything but my mind's always somewhere else,
Mhm.
right? It's always on something else, it seems. I live in my own head to a very high degree. Um, it's kind of the joke in the family almost. Um, but my mind's always wandering. Um, even when I don't want it to.
Yeah.
Uh, but when you're enjoying something in the moment, and luckily if you can get hyper focused on it, I really, you know, enjoy that incredibly well. So, I would say whenever you can, really try and enjoy something, and even if you can, put your hyper focus into it,
Mhm.
and you'll come out, with a better experience.
So
A
you're kind of referring to a
concert,
little more self-care is what you're.
yeah, like a concert,
Yeah.
kids, soccer game, reading a book, even just going for a walk and
Mhm.
swim or whatever. Just anything that is just I like to try and get into that if I can. I like to try and get myself into that
Mhm.
frame of mind. It is so hard though, obviously, because
Wow.
it's
It's
tough to
hard
put
because it's
yourself there, right?
yeah, yeah, and I think it's a very good point, and I guarantee everyone who's listening are saying, "I hear you. I get it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it's again, I just try and enjoy myself when doing something, but so often just I go off to a different spot.
Yeah. I usually get, so there he goes again. He's gone. And everyone will look around. What do you mean he's gone? He's right there. Oh no, his head is gone.
Yeah. Like hey, listen, when we're in a coach meeting or something, like boom, my phone's off. I don't pay attention to it until I get a break. And then even after the break, I turn it off and I'm
Mhm.
hyper focused again
Well,
because
because
I'm
you set
knowing.
your environment. You set the environment up to be able to hyper focus.
Yeah, and I know that I'm just in an environment where I can absorb so much
Yeah.
in a period that I can't absorb anywhere else at any time else. So take advantage of it, enjoy it, and make sure I get the most out of it.
What's your next success project?
The next success project has been in the works for a year, and it keeps hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And you know what that means? That means sometimes you want to give up, but you know you can't.
Mhm.
It's a project called Markets Connection. Um, it's really important to me personally, especially as a small business person. We're distributors in the end, and I work in an industry of small businesses and distributors. There's lots of other industries like ours, and I'd like to, I don't know, be a champion of small business in some ways. I want to see them stay in business. I want to see them thrive. I think it's the lifeblood of our economy. Still, even though all we hear about is Walmart, Amazon, Home
Yeah.
Depot, Lowe's, all those big guys, and they're dominating and they're buying everybody and
Well, we
they're
hire and
killing
feed the
everybody,
most
right?
people than those big companies.
Right. And you know what? I want the little guy to be able to stay in business and thrive and employ, people from their community with good jobs, good paying jobs, and listen, have great lives, right?
Good.
And I know services like plumbers, electricians, and all that can be a little different than that, but the distributors, let's keep them in business.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Again, anyone small business would appreciate that support, and it takes a lot of us to be able to provide that for others. Kevin, thank you very much for sharing your story here. And three things I want to point out here is hyper focus is a strength. Don't forget that. Um, and then when you said something in the beginning, it wasn't really a statement you made, but one point says, you were really good at relationship building, and it sounded like you didn't really notice that until people start calling you when COVID hit. And I kind of got that kind of insight myself too. So I just want to have the listeners understand, believe it or not, we are damn good at relationships. We just don't believe it ourselves. So I want you guys to think about that. All right. And I want to hear back from you. So you can email me at andre@andreb.ca about it. But ultimately, as Kevin said, enjoy yourselves, learn how to do that because we deserve it.
Right.
Thank you,
Thank you
Kevin.
thank you very much, Andre. I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the listeners if they have kept listening.
Yep. And you can reach out
Cheers.
to Kevin at through LinkedIn, and I'll put his contact info in the show notes and the websites of his companies. And if there's any way you can help him, reach out to him, please. Thanks again, Kevin, and thank you to the listeners.
Thanks, Andre.